Hey vinyl community, it's Mazzy here. 2019, another incredible year for music. This is a companion video to a video I did of the best albums of 2019. This is the best records, albums of 2019, the reissue department, version, segment, reissues, box sets, anniversary issues, sometimes outtake versions and artist music that had never been released. So basically anything that's not newly released as new music in 2019. A little scuffied up here, dressed up because I'm a reissue myself, turning the ripe age of, well, I got my Medicare card this year, then you know how old I am. But let me turn this down and we'll talk. I'll get into this in a minute, but Mogadisco, Analog Africa. I'll talk about that in a second because I'm addicted to these Analog Africa comps. But one moment, please. So again, this is a different hat that you've probably seen me wearing in the VC. This is a hat that I got about 7 years ago in San Francisco, and it's the only hat in my collection that was custom made for me by this amazing woman, a milliner. Now, a milliner is a person who makes hats. So millinery is a hat maker, a hat seller, like a haberdashery, but for hats. She goes by the name House of Nines. She was in San Francisco for many years, an amazing artist, fits you up, designs things, talks to you about design, shows the styles that she designs in her creations, and you go with it. And I kind of, picked the color, and she showed me various styles and colors and interior things. And I was very fortunate about a year and a half, 2 years before I moved out of San Francisco. She later moved to New York, and now I believe, I haven't kept in touch with her, but I think she's in Paris now. Sounds kind of snooty, but it's not as snooty. Unfortunately, a lot of artists get pushed out of these amazing cities like San Francisco, and that's a whole other issue. But look at this beautiful hat. Look at this interior. So those of you that just are here for the music, you got a little fashion thing. So, Mazzy wears hats. I love hats. I want to showcase them. So there we go. As I was saying, the best reissues and older music put out this year. On several videos, I've showcased the label Glog Africa, a label out of Germany that reissues mostly African continent comps. These are number 28 and 29. I think I show these in new releases. Jambu, music from the Amazon, and Mogadisco, music from Somalia, 1972 to 1991. I said before many times again, the African Scream Contest, two different volumes, comps that came out, 4 or 5 years ago, are amazing, and I think they're limited. You can't find this stuff. You can, through Bandcamp, you can buy this, but again, these are 28 and 29. I probably have about maybe 6 or 7 of their records. I mean, in a perfect world now, I want to go back and get them all, but they're probably rare out of print, and so if anyone has volumes 1 to 10, that'd be a great VCLT for Mazzy. Can't find them. Sight unseen, I'd buy Analog Africa every time. Most of them are double records, and what's amazing about it, these stunning, almost like magazines, booklets that come with each collection, showcasing the artists and the music of the time. I mean, I need to really sit down and go through these things in detail, because a lot of great information. Here's a number of their catalog. Maybe I could see, I need to kind of go through and check these out. I don't have any of these. So that's Mogadisco. Makes you want to move, doesn't it? and Jambu, music of the Amazon. Again, another book, another booklet. The Somalian thing's got a little bit of like a reggae feel to it in there as well. A little over a year ago, towards the end of 2018, Tony Joe White passed away. A great blues, soul, funky artist from Louisiana. Was on Warner Brothers Monument Records, and I've been a fan of his for a long time. Those first albums, one's called Black and White, I believe that's on Warner's, or one of the Warner's group, is an essential record. I only have a handful of his records, but I'm kind of diving in, and it seems to be, since his death, unfortunately, a renaissance. There's a Record Store Day Live comp that just came out, and this came out this year, which is really wonderful. This originally came out in 2006 as a Rhino handmade limited edition, where they put out CDs and you could buy directly box sets and multi-disc sets. But this is from Monument, outtakes, works in progress, alternate versions of, not really maybe demos, but mostly just different versions that didn't make it to any of his albums that were on Monument Records. But they're just great recordings and great kind of swampy, soulful sound. So, Tony Joe White, Swamp Music, 3 records, Monument, Rarities. One of my favorite reissues of 2019. I showcased this a little bit. This is fun. Might be too disco-esque for some people. Light in the Attic Records, Pacific Breeze, and it's Japanese city pop, AOR, and boogie. Boogie is the key word here, from 1976 to 1986. Very Japanese pop, fun record, upbeat. You know, if you don't like disco-y stuff and very pop music, but beautiful package, beautiful cover. A great comp. Light in the Attic does some amazing stuff. As you know, they're a label, reissue label, or putting together comps out of Seattle, Washington. I'm repeating myself in terms of some other records, but a comp I keep playing is this African Voodoo. And this is Manu Dibango, who had a hit record. I always blank out, and I should research it when I get into this thing, that came out in the 60s, early 70s, that was hit on the top radio. And these are songs that were kind of used for soundtracks, commercials, that he did mostly, I believe, in the 70s. 1972, I think this originally came out. But it says, these files were recorded in 1971 at Pathé Marconi studio in Africa, in Boulogne Billancourt, basically South Africa, I believe, for professional sound illustration for cinema, television, and advertising. But it's got a great funky thing. I think some of you have picked this up. And one of my favorite records, and it's a great party record. It just has a great groove to it. So, Manu Dibango, African Voodoo, a great reissue in 2019. Prince. The Prince estate, as we know, is putting things out, and last year there was a great unreleased version of him solo piano. That didn't get a lot of love from a lot of Prince fans. It was a little too sedate and everything, but I loved that album. Solo Prince, I think it's called One Microphone. Love that record. It's very intimate, very unlike the upbeat dance stuff. I think people expected that. But this came out this year and really great. And it's called Prince Originals. And it's a collection, 2-record collection of songs that he wrote that didn't record on his own. Basically, songs he wrote and gave to other artists. For instance, Sex Shooter, Jungle Love, Manic Monday, you know, the Bangles recorded that. Nothing Compares to You that he gave to Sinead O'Connor. Anyway, songs he gave to, you know, Sheila E. and Crush Groove and, well, tons of other artists. And these are all versions, in some cases demo guide vocal versions, but really kind of a cool record and great sounding record. The Glamorous Life, it gave to Sheila E. Baby You're a Trip. Gigolos Get Lonely Too. That was released by The Time in the 70s. Dear Michelangelo by Sheila E. as well. The Family recorded Nothing Compares. Actually, The Family. Oh, Sinead O'Connor. Never mind. I'm sorry. I tripped that up. But anyway, Prince. The original versions of songs that he gave away to other artists. Really great comp. I showcased ad nauseum XTC, and XTC's great albums from the 80s, EP and an album under the name Dukes of the Stratosphere. Beautiful packaging. The packaging exceeds the originals. I know everybody's into originals, and I do have the originals to these, somewhat crunchy, but these are worthwhile. If you don't have these records, I advise looking for these reissues. This is when the XTC, put on their masks in a way, not really, but and put these psychedelic records that emulate psychedelics from like 1966, 67, 68. Both these records are good. 25 O'Clock and Sonic Sunspot. XTC under another name. But great companion pieces that came out. The XTC continues to do a great reissue series out of their own label, Ape in the UK. So a lot of stuff you can see in stores occasionally, but online directly at Ape, probably apeuk.com, APE. You can look them up. I highly recommend these great reissues. And there's going to be a few chapters of these like the other videos. These are 3 records that I got at Record Store Day that I know that are amazing. Steppenwolf's first album, you all know it, Born to Be Wild, Sookie Sookie, The Pusher, goddamn The Pusher, man. It never came out, for some reason, in true stereo. I think in the UK and in Germany, it came out as a fold down in in true mono. It was a stereo record. In fact, the stereo record's great. So this is for the essential people now. They found essential collectors. They found apparently true stereo tapes, and Sundays put this out. Unfortunately, it's really limited and hard to get. Hopefully there'll be some kind of expanded edition. And this came out for Record Store Day. True mono from 1968. The album came out on Dunhill Records. And this version is on clear vinyl. And it sounds like just really great rock and mono. And really great, that great reflective cover. You see these, used in stores in stereo, and the albums are always chewed up. So they really need to, put good reissues, even in stereo. The first 2 Steppenwolf albums, I think, are essential. This and the second one, the bluish cover, bluish, gold, yellowish, psychedelic cover, are essential records for any collection for rock and roll, psychedelic. But I was so excited to get this, and I did get up early and wait in line. I was 3rd in line on Record Store Day for this one. 2019, I hope they expand it and put it out later. Another Record Store Day issue that came out, that I've had the CDs since it came out in the, I don't even know when it came out exactly, but More Ore. The original album Ore was by Skip Spence, who was one of the original members of Moby Grape. He kind of went crazy with drugs and head shit going on. And Ore is a very spacey, psychedelic kind of folk record. If you find Ore, that's been reissued also by Sundays. And I think last year there was an expanded triple CD and of all the versions and recordings from Ore. Wonderful record. More Ore is different artists covering the entire record. Artists like Robert Plant, the Ophilias, the Do-Rocks, Alejandro Escovedo, Mudhoney, Robin Hitchcock, Flaming Lips, Beck, -5, and others. Great liner notes in here. Kind of nice versions of this. In some ways, these might be more accessible to fans because The original ore, as wonderful as it is a very kind of spacey, moody, disjointed, but still, if you like that kind of music, it's a wonderful record. And lastly, in this section, but not last, this video is going to go on a little bit after I do a wardrobe change and lift some heavy boxes. This is not for everybody, but Raymond Scott, I want to do a Raymond Scott feature in the new year probably. He was a conductor, composer, inventor. He worked with the NBC and CBS orchestras. He invented some electronic equipment. He worked for about 10 years on a project, kind of electronic gizmo-y musical project for Berry Gordy and Motown out of Los Angeles that never was fully realized. A lot of young people know his music because there was later used Powerball or Powerhouse, I think was a song that was used on Ren and Stimpy cartoons, and his songs were adapted by Carl Stalling for Warner Brothers cartoons and Disney cartoons back in the 40s and 50s. So even if you don't know the name of Raymond Scott, you know his music if you watch cartoons, you know, growing up as a kid, Roadrunner cartoons or anything else, or Ren and Stimpy again in the 90s. He also did a lot of composing and arranging and conducting for commercials in the 50s and 60s. And this is an album that came out on Record Store Day on Modern Harmonic. One moment. Da 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 da. And it's called the Jingle Workshop. He wrote jingles for commercials with a lot of these have Dorothy Collins on vocals. She was married to him for a while, to Raymond Scott. But some of these things you've heard, like the Land of Sky Blue Water for Ham's Beer, car commercials, Move On to Schlitz Beer. You know, I think I'll put in a little bit after this a needle drop because this stuff is safe to put on, I assume. And it's just fun. Again, some would say once you get this, you listen to it once or twice, you don't listen to it again. So it's not for everybody. It's someone who likes really kind of out there music. He also worked on a lot of electronic. There's electronic, like with Moog synthesizer and related type of instrumentation in the 60s and 70s. So he experimented quite a bit. RCA Victor commercials, but this is sort of a personal favorite, and it's a reissue. I don't know if it's probably never been compiled in this form ever. I don't think. But Modern Harmonic is a sub-label from Sundays that has more of their jazz and avant-garde, maybe some Sun Ra, some really the more out there, wilder stuff, not the traditional rock and roll, folk, blues, or pop music. So we'll be back after a little commercial break.
When you bake, bake, bake with gold medal flour, you'll make, make, make each meal your shining hour. Your praises, your husband will never soft pedal if whenever you bake, you'll always use gold medal.
Gold medal? Wait, there's more.
47. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Our brewers are the best, materials the best, the equipment is the best. Oh, we test, 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 so it outsells because it excels.
Duquesne,
Have a Duke,
Duquesne,
have a Duke, the Prince of Pilsner's Duquesne, premium Duquesne. It outsells because it excels.
I could play this shit forever. You don't want to hear this, but
Hangover dirt, hangover dirt.
this is so cool. Okay, we'll continue.
Washing machine, are they really clean? Or do the products you use leave residues of hangover dirt? Hangover dirt, hangover dirt. Use it.
But Mazzy has the right to jack it up, to turn it up when there's something I want you to hear. So anyway, Raymond Scott, commercials, Record Store Day. I don't know if this is going to expand beyond Record Store Day, but if you see it, if you're have any inclination or very interested in kind of something a little offbeat occasionally, this is pretty cool. I gave it too much time, didn't I? A favorite artist that I'm going to be featuring at some point soon is Billy Bragg, and this hasn't ever come out in this form, but these are recordings going back to 1983 to 2019. BBC recordings from the great Billy Bragg, punk folk artist. I want to say Americana, but he's a Brit. I first saw him opening up for The Clash in the 80s. Very socially aware, powerful performer. He does something with the guitar, just him alone frequently. I've seen him both alone with an electric guitar, just thrashing it in folk punk fashion, and I've seen him with a smaller band. I saw him also collaboration with Joe Henry, did a record with Joe Henry last year of train songs. Actually recorded at train stations throughout America. But great BBC record. This is a 3-record set. Came out this year on both compact disc and vinyl, and I'm loving this. A little boxing. Overkill, maybe for some. No Other by Gene Clark. Box set that has vinyl, CDs, Blu-ray, DVDs. This is a great, his great, amazing album from 1974. Didn't get a lot of love in the day. Gene Clark's No Other. You may know Gene Clark, original member of the Byrds, then worked with country artists, the Dillards. Putting records out, a couple records out under the name Dillard and Clark. But I think I showed a little bit of this before in No Other in my Gene Clark feature. But great book, great to see outtakes, demos, just an elaborate set. At least if nothing else, the vinyl and CD came out, reissued this year. You don't need the big box unless you're whacked out like Mazzy here. And so in love with this music and this artist. So I'm a Gene Clark completist. Amazing artist, the late Gene Clark. So No Other came out on 4 AD. A wonderful, elaborate, the ultimate box. Some would say overkill for one record, but a great record. So at least get the single LP or CD. My favorite Kinks album, sometimes it shifts to number 2, number 1, is Arthur. 50 years old. That's the thing about 2019 and all these years, over the last few years. 50th anniversary of great albums that came out in the 60s, and Arthur is no different. The stereo version's the best. This has a stereo, the mono. It came out a reissue on LP. I have originals, I have various issues of it. This is a smaller set that's compact discs and 45s. But Arthur's a great album that came out originally in 1969 for sort of a BBC show, almost like a little bit of a mini opera that Ray Davis wrote and the Kinks performed. But the box set includes a wonderful booklet, soft cover booklet, several 45s of the Kinks from the Arthur period, as well as solo Dave Davies, the unreleased solo Dave Davies record, which is on the CD, Blu-ray, and 5.1. So much Kinks, more Kinks you ever want, postcards, posters of the band. And 4 or 5 CD DVDs. So the Kinks Arthur, 50 years. Kind of showed that too fast, didn't I? But here's another one. Great set, especially if you're a Kinks fan, and those of you who followed me know that the Kinks are my second or third favorite band ever. I have a big showcase on this. The Beatles International 45s, beautiful box set. See, I'm not going to pull this out again. Seek out that video that just shows my Beatle 45 and EP collection. That's a whole separate long video. Shows my originals plus these. These came out with beautiful original, well, basically cover picture. I'll just show one or two picture sleeves from around the world. So they did the international versions, not just the UK, which a lot of them were just plain green wraps, and not just the United States, but literally Spain and Germany and Italy and the UK and America. So this would be a great gift for anybody. Beatles singles collection. And a booklet inside too. Every year, the Bob Dylan Bootleg Series, Archive Series comes out, various sets of Dylan. I'm a Dylan completist as well, close to it, not as much as with the Beatles, but Bob Dylan, the Rolling Thunder Review, most of the recordings from the 1975 live recordings were Dylan and his troupe of merry pranksters with T-Bone Burnett and Ronnie Blakey and Scarlett Rivera and Mick Ronson and God, tons of other artists. On the road, Joan Baez occasionally. On the road with Bob Dylan. He put white pancake face on for a lot of the tour. There's a booklet. I would say this is the closest Bob Dylan has had to his to a punk rocker. The stuff is very intense. In fact, you know, a great album that I didn't appreciate when it came out in 76, 75, 76 was Hard Rain, live album, single LP, but now I love it. It's really intense, and the versions he does of even his older songs are really wonderful. So I'm excited. I've been playing this in my car a lot. And of course there is a different kind of a limited vinyl set as well, but this is the complete CD box. Rolling Thunder Review to 1975 recordings. Great, great collection. And then just most recently, in the last month or two, came out the Traveling Through, Bob Dylan Traveling Through. This is the 1967 to 69, has things from New Morning, stuff collaborations with Johnny Cash for the Johnny Cash Show and Nashville Skyline. Beautiful collection. This is 3 LPs on vinyl, and this is a great set. If you like Dylan and you like Johnny Cash, this is a no-brainer. So, but one of my favorite reissues of this year. 1969, you know, 1969, 2019 again, 50 years, a lot. 69 was a great year for music, as you all know. Abbey Road. I'm not going to get into the big thing. The vinyl has 2 records and has the remix and then the session work. Actually, 3 records, 6 records, 3 record set. Session work, outtakes, works in progress, and the remix of it by Giles Martin. I still prefer the originals, all this remix thing. I don't think, especially this album, Abbey Road doesn't need a remix personally, so I prefer the original. But it's kind of great to hear the outtakes and the different versions. And of course, the more expanded CD version, CD, Blu-ray, 5.1, beautiful, beautiful book. Alternate pictures of them crossing the street in different formats. But again, I don't think I need to show you all of this. I'll just show you one. George Harrison, there we go. You know him, the Fabs, 50 years of the Fabs, tempestuous times. But luckily, the last thing they recorded, Abbey Road, is wonderful. More Let It Be into the new year. But this was a great reissue for 69 to 2019. And again, I prefer the original mix, but I love having all the outtakes. And to me, that's what was an important release in 2019. So that's why it's fitting in the best of 2019. More 2019, 1969 Woodstock, 50th anniversary of Woodstock. I wasn't at Woodstock. I was on the West Coast. I went to Altamont. Not a great experience, but so be it. Now, those of you who had the big wad of cash and wallet and wanted the full immersion experience out there, it might be some of you that went for the big, like $600 or $700 Woodstock box that has literally every minute, every second, the concert, the stage announcements. I didn't do that. That was a Rhino special direct limited edition, but I did get the vinyl set. And the vinyl set is more expanded than the original. Oh, wait, there's more. More Raymond Scott. I had to take that break. A more expanded Woodstock. 5 LPs. Booklet. "50 Years of Woodstock." There's also a 10 CD, more expanded, that has at least some music from every artist where the original did not. And I didn't pull here, but it was a good year for Creedence Clearwater. Had their own album, vinyl Woodstock. Jefferson Airplane had their own vinyl Woodstock. Sly Stone, Woodstock. Janis Joplin, Woodstock. So that's the Woodstock segment.
Go Greyhound and leave the driving to us.
2019 was such a great year if you're a jazz fan and you wanted to get some great Blue Note jazz reissues. Blue Note 80 is a line of Blue Note records that's all analog cut records. They're fairly inexpensive. Today's standards around $22 to $24, sometimes even less. They're analog cut by Kevin Gray, the great mastering engineer. The covers are a little flimsy, but the recordings are stunning. So you're paying for that great package. And I got a lot of those. I didn't get every single one, but also their parallel sort of Big Brother line of jazz release was Tone Poet. Tone Poet, curated by Joe Harley of Music Matters Jazz. And I got a lot of those as well. Those range, they list for about $36, but you can get them anywhere from $27 to $32 or so, give or take. And the thing is, the covers are stunning. Again, mastered by Kevin Gray, and just really great, great records. I got a lot of them. I'm not going to go through and show every single one, but I'm putting the Tone Poet, the Blue Note reissues, in my best of 2019 as a collective rather than an individual reissue. And I just picked 5 that I'm going to just show you. And a lot of these you've seen from on the vinyl community and other places already, so I'm not going to get really into them. But Lee Morgan, Cornbread. Again, these have these great tipped-on covers. They have photographs from the Blue Note archive that Michael Kuskuna now owns. Just the beautiful, beautiful pictures by Francis Wolff, and most of the designs by Reed Miles. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So there's one. One of the most interesting, I think, and not for the beginner of jazz, but Andrew Hill, Black Fire. Beautiful cover, great music, a little more intricate, little more out there for jazz. I don't see it that way personally, but it's not the standard. If you're just a fan of Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, and those kind of things, which are amazing albums, obviously. This might not be for you, but it is one of my favorites beyond, just on the top of the heap for me this year. Dexter Gordon's Clubhouse. Something that's a little more larger orchestra, so it's not for the minimalist who wants the trio, quartet, or quintet, but Gil Evans, the great jazz composer, is interpreted by Gil Evans and his orchestra. I love this record. Little different than the other Blue Notes, but Gil Evans is a favorite of mine. Gil Evans worked a lot with Miles Davis. In fact, there's a great CD box set of the Gil Evans, Miles Davis collaborations. This is called New Bottle, Old Wine. This is the only one, I think, at least one of the few, that is not a gatefold, and it's not the standard design. Because these were, that's right, these were from World Pacific, these next two. World Pacific, not Blue Note, but they were under the umbrella that was purchased in the 60s and 70s by United Artists, and then that owned Blue Note and World Pacific. So they're part of the same family. So again, a great selection of records. And lastly, for this segment, Chick Corea, Now He Sings, Now He Sobs. Great album with Chick Corea, Miroslav Vitches on bass, and Roy Haynes on drums, a trio. Wonderful record, really great. This was the first one, I think, one of the first issues that Tone Poet did early, I guess January, February. And I'm looking forward to more in 2020, but that's a great selection of music. And then lastly, the big mother, Renaissance Records. Resonance. It's hard to pronounce that. It's hard for Mazzy to pronounce everything half the time. But Renaissance is a reissue. You know what I'm talking about. You'll see it here. Is a reissue, jazz reissue label out of Los Angeles. They did some cool stuff with who did they do? The guitar player, Wes Montgomery, and Gil Evans. And this year they put out a limited edition of 3,000 of Nat King Cole, and this is hitting the ramp. The early years, 1936 to 1943, by far one of the best reissues of the year in a big way. It's on CD, so you can get it relatively inexpensive on CD. This is a 10 LP box set. These are from the transcriptions recordings that Nat Cole and his trio and some other musicians that he worked with, some other vocalists and musicians, did for radio and television, mostly radio in the time, actually, not television, but radio in the 30s and 40s. And these are transcription recordings they put out. And they did an amazing job on these 10 LPs with a wonderful booklet. And if you like Nat Cole, I'm a big fan of the Mosaic box. I don't have that on vinyl, but the Mosaic box was, again, Michael Cascuna put that out. 18 CDs. I think the LP box is 27. Long out of print, long valuable. Those are the Capitol recordings. I happen to be a huge fan of Nat King Cole, and this is just great music. If you have the wherewithal, this would be a great Christmas gift. But again, one of the best jazz releases of 2019. This is probably the #1 jazz release reissue of 2019 from my point of view. So that's it. Closing out 2019 with the best of reissues. There's another video, again, reminding you, in case you just chimed somewhere in the middle of this, that there's another best of new releases. Actually, in the background here, you probably won't be able to hear it, but this is a CD that came out this year, Fillmore West 71, the Allman Brothers. So check that out as well. I like it. It's a great. I play down here in my office CDs while I'm working. But I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, all you VC members that watch my videos. It's amazing that just the friendships I made. I've met several of you in person. Mostly I haven't. I love watching your videos, making comments, getting comments, learning about new music. I'm amazed how much new music. It's almost dangerous because you want to go out and check out and look for certain records. So I'm amazed sometimes at what I've come across, and amazed, actually, really surprised of the old stuff that came out during my music business heyday that I just kind of skipped or didn't run into or pass by or anything. So again, thank you again. This is the whole way a shame now. Mazzy loves you, and I really appreciate all the support and all the love. And if any of you are ever in Seattle, look me up. Maybe we can share a drink, share a record store dig, or whack-a-mole together. I always got to go there, right? Anyway, Mazzy loves you. Take care, VC.